In this country, we have this weird phenomenon where we, the US, are essentially pressured into doing the bidding of a country that we give tens of billions of dollars in military aid to. Unlike every other country we give aid to, Israel has a good amount of leverage over our government. Is it a coincidence? Does Iraq have leverage when we give them aid? How about Afghanistan or Ethiopia or the Ukraine? No, they obviously don't. It's partly because the US feels protective of Israel because of the Holocaust atrocities that sparked its formation, but it is also because those other countries don't have a powerful lobby of donors like Israel does in the United States, and because criticizing their governments hasn't been disingenuously conflated with bigotry like it has been with Israel, even though their leader is Dick Cheney 2.0. He's as right-wing and authoritarian as it gets, and that is exemplified by the news that has come out of Gaza in the past week or so. On Friday, Israeli soldiers used live ammunition and tear gas as tens of thousands of Gaza residents gathered in the latest show of anger along the dividing line between Israel and the 140 square mile strip of territory. The Israeli military said firebombs were hurled and explosives were planted near the fence in northern Gaza. Through the early afternoon, the demonstration appeared significantly smaller than one a week earlier that turned into the bloodiest day for Palestinians in Gaza since the 2014 war between Israel and Hamas. Groups mostly of young men advanced to the border and hurled rocks with slingshots from behind the clouds of smoke. The protests swelled by late afternoon to include more women and children, with the Israeli military estimating that at least 20,000 people had gathered. The use of live ammunition by Israeli forces initially appeared relatively limited, but toward the end of the day, the violence escalated. The Gaza Health Ministry said about 1,400 people were injured Friday, including 399 with gunshot wounds. The ministry said 754 people were hospitalized, 730 men and 24 women. As of now, the death toll is 9, including the death of a journalist, Yasser Murtaja, who was wearing a vest that said "Press" on the front. Pretty damn clear, but the Israeli forces shot him down anyway, along with 5 other journalists. So let me get this straight. Israeli forces were on their land, occupying their land, and protesters threw rocks at them, and Israeli forces shot them dead. And some people are calling it even. And is the Israeli government condemning the actions of the Israeli forces? Are these just rogue military men and women who will be held accountable for gunning down journalists and, by all accounts, mostly innocent individuals? I think not. Listen to what Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman said yesterday. There are no innocent people in the Gaza Strip, Lieberman told Israel's public radio. Everyone's connected to Hamas. Everyone gets a salary from Hamas, and all the activists trying to challenge us and breach the border are Hamas military wing activists. That is the same as the "let's take out their families" comment from Trump. People are not individuals, everyone's a terrorist because they are affiliated with some loose definition of terrorism. This is someone who views the other as completely morally inferior. It's supremacy talk, it's xenophobic, it's racist, it's disgusting. It's also apartheid, a minority reigning over and oppressing a region that is soon to be majority Palestinian. And yes, as I mentioned, through thick and thin, the US is still scared to stand up to this right-wing government in Israel, especially under the Trump administration with their tough talk. So much so that the Israeli government is basically ordering the United States to strike against Syria in the press. The U.S. must attack the Assad regime in Syria in response to the alleged chemical weapons attack in Douma, which killed dozens of people, Strategic Affairs and Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan said on Sunday. Erdan, who is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's number 2 in Likud, said he hoped U.S. military action against the regime would be taken as it was when the Syrian army used chemical weapons against its people in the past. The shocking attack shows the incredible hypocrisy of the international community, focusing on Israel confronting the terrorist organization Hamas that is sending civilians to our fence when dozens are being killed in Syria every day, Erdan told Army Radio. It shows the need for strengthening the presence of Americans and other international forces, because without them, the genocide we are seeing will only intensify. In other words, look over there, international community. Don't look at the apartheid regime that we are consolidating here in Israel, unapologetically committing human rights abuses. U.S. attacks Syria, which also coincidentally suits our international interests. And of course, it seems to be working. Yes, under John Bolton in this administration, the U.S. is probably happy to get involved in any war possible, but this definitely plays a part. Today, the White House is holding an emergency session on Syria, and according to Bloomberg reporter Jennifer Jacobs, Trump isn't even scheduled to be there, just John Bolton. So I'm sure we know what the conclusion is going to be there. Bolton has spent his entire career wanting to go to war with Iran. Iran and Syria are close allies. This is not to say that Syria and its government under Assad haven't perpetrated horrific human rights abuses. They have, 1,000,000%. In fact, these new talks of aggression are in response to another chemical weapons attack by Assad on his own people. But this is really about how we're willingly giving billions of dollars in military aid to one country that is quickly becoming an apartheid regime, and are extremely quick to attack another because it fits our geopolitical strategy. And if you had any doubts about Israel's role in ramping up this conflict with Syria, here is all you need to know. Israel carried out airstrikes against a Syrian airbase early Monday morning and informed the U.S. in advance, two U.S. officials told NBC News. The pre-dawn missile attack came hours after a deadly suspected poison gas attack on the last remaining foothold for rebels fighting the Assad regime. The war monitoring group said the overnight airstrikes killed 14 people, according to the Associated Press. Israel attacks first, while also talking about how the U.S. must attack Syria in the press. Now the conversation is about to be about how the U.S. has to attack Syria to stop their human rights abuses, and the discussion of Israel's human rights abuses is long gone in the news cycle. This is classic deflection, but it's really dangerous because it's deflection and distraction that causes death, and not just death in Syria, future death in Gaza, because the longer the international community closes its eyes to what's going on in Palestine, the more incidents like what happened last week will occur, and they'll occur more frequently.